Okay, here they're showing you, there's your pituitary. What structure is that? Ovarian ligament. What structure is that? Primordial, or another would also accept primary follicle. What kind of egg would be in there? Primary oocyte. Just because I remember from the key, here they're showing you two different stages of what? Secondary follicles. What kind of oocyte would be in there? Still a primary oocyte. Here they're showing you early and late stage Graafian follicles. In this one here, what kind of oocyte would have to be there in this earlier stage Graafian follicle? Still would have to be a primary oocyte. Here, we don't know how close it is to that, so this could be either primary or secondary. Here they're showing you the Graafian follicle ovulating, so this guy right here, this egg that just got spit out, has to be secondary oocyte. How many chromosomes? Haploid, or 23. Okay. What part of the fallopian tube is this? These are the fimbriae. This funnel-shaped portion here, infundibulum. This portion here, the ampulla of the fallopian tube. And connecting to the uterus, you've got the isthmus. Here in the ampulla, they show you the sperm meeting the egg. So what could potentially this be, depending on, I know in the key they're assuming that this sperm has just penetrated the outer layer of cells here, causing this to be called now an ovum. And by the time you're over here, then the genetic material of the two cells have united, and now you've got the first case of a diploid zygote, the first cell of the new critter. By the time you're over here, it's been dividing mitotically, and by the time it's here, it's about 6 days later from here. By the time it gets in here, it's got many, many cells at that point. Okay. For the uterus, we'll look at it from a couple different perspectives here. Structure is that? That's the uterus. Uterus sits on top of the urinary bladder. So here's another look at it. Here's the uterus. There's the urinary bladder. Okay, so what, if it's asking for regions, what region would this be? The fundus, the rounded kind of part. Here it's a different perspective because it looks like it's facing directly up, which sometimes apparently it does, but usually it tilts over like that, and so the fundus is over here. If it's asking for a region, so that's the fundus, the body, and then by the time you're right here, the cervix. It's asking for what layer of the uterine wall? Or this whitish layer they have out here, like right there. Perimetrium, it's on the outside. The middle muscular layer, here that you can see it all here, the myometrium. And on this model, they kind of, the red inner lining, this one they make it white. The red is to depict the high vascularization of this tissue, where this is where the blastocyst will implant. That's the endometrium. So endo within, that's going to be the innermost lining. So here again, the red is the endometrium. What space is this? Uterine cavity. What space is right there? Between the uterine cavity and the cervical canal? Internal os. What space is that right there? External os. What space is this? We just said it. Cervical canal. What space is that right there? This is where a diaphragm would fit, reproductive or contraceptive. The fornix, or you can say lateral fornix. And then the rest of this is the vagina. What features of the vagina is this? Rugae. Which they show you all along in here. So you can see the fornix. Okay. That's good for this poster. Okay, what structure is that? Mons pubis, right? What bone is that? That's pubic bone, right in front of the pubic bone. You got fatty material and skin, and mons pubis. Clitoris. Labia majora. Labia minora. Might be about everything I can think of. Okay. Just file that. Right there. How do you know it's the posterior pituitary? Well, they don't really. It's not the most graphic, thing. I would base this on the fact that about 1/3 of the size of the pituitary gland is the posterior pituitary, and the much bigger part is going to be the anterior pituitary. So number 2 here is the anterior pituitary. Number 3 is the posterior pituitary. Name 2 hormones secreted from here. Secreted from the posterior pituitary, made in the hypothalamus. Here's a trick question. Name a hormone produced here. There aren't any. Just a storage and secretion of the 2 hypothalamic hormones, ADH and oxytocin. Name, I swear to God, I'm changing the test, even though I already made copies of it, just because, why not? Name 5 hormones from here. I'm not really going to do that, but should. This is the anterior pituitary. LH, FSH, human growth hormone. Which one's going to go down and stimulate the thyroid? TSH, which one's going to go down and stimulate the adrenal cortex? ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. And then which one's going to be involved in, along with a lot of other hormones, in making milk?
Prolactin.
Prolactin. Which one would darken your skin? MSH. Melanocyte stimulating hormone. And this structure here is the infundibulum. Okay, A and P from the heart. Here they're showing you the anterior surface of the thyroid. They're showing you the posterior surface of the thyroid over here. So what part of the thyroid gland is that right there? Thyroid, you have 2 lateral lobes connected by an isthmus in the center. And name 3 hormones from here. T3, T4. And another one has to do with calcium metabolism. Calcitonin. Calcitonin comes from the thyroid. Here's your parathyroid glands, the 4 little nodules, and this is showing you a posterior view of the thyroid, and that's where you find the parathyroid glands, and they make PTH, parathyroid hormone. So parathyroid hormone and calcitonin are from different glands, but they're antagonistic hormones that do the opposite thing. Then on top of the kidneys, they're showing you over here, what part is that right there of the adrenal glands? Got to be specific here. Really, it's 2 glands in one. So this is the adrenal cortex on the outside, and then on the inside you've got the adrenal medulla. Name 2 hormones from right there, the adrenal medulla. Epinephrine and norepinephrine. Collectively, they're called adrenaline hormones. And name 3 hormones from the cortex out here. Well, one of them's and I would recognize it as just 2. Name the major stress hormone from the cortex. Cortisol. Cortisol is kind of, some people refer to it as the long-term stress hormone of the body. So you have cortisol, is the most abundant of the glucocorticoids. Mineral corticoids come from here too, and that would be, the most abundant would be one we've already talked about a ton of times. Affects sodium, actually really plays a big role in potassium as well. Aldosterone. So aldosterone, cortisol, and an androgen type of hormone, DHEA. Okay. Got erythropoietin and calcitriol from the kidneys. What is this right there? Pancreas. Here they're showing you what part of the pancreas. Name this endocrine portion of the pancreas. Islets of Langerhans. And name 2 hormones from here. We've only really talked about 2 so far. Glucagon and insulin. Name a hormone from here that lowers blood sugar. Insulin. Then better models of the gonads over here, so look at them. All right. Name 2 hormones. Come from here. Guess you'd have to know what this is to start with. Small intestines, more specifically duodenum, but kind of hard to figure out where that is on this model, somewhere up there, I guess. Not gastrin. One stimulates the gallbladder, and one stimulates the pancreas. CCK, cholecystokinin, and secretin. Secretin goes to the pancreas, cholecystokinin to the gallbladder. Triggers them to dump their contents into the small intestines. Gastrin stimulates the whole digestive process, makes everything go faster, peristalsis, all that stuff, stimulates the chief cells and parietal cells. ANP, sodium excretion, water excretion. What else do we got? Kidneys, EPO. What else could, I forgot. Hey, what's another hormone that you could use for the kidneys besides erythropoietin? Calcitriol. Kidneys activate, turn vitamin D into calcitriol. What are these glands here? Adrenals. We'll go over the adrenals on here. You have a lot of choices there. Pituitary gland. What's that? Pituitary gland. Just kind of hangs from below the brain there. Oh, you know what else I forgot? I probably won't even ask it. What bone does the pituitary gland sit in? I think it's on the word bank, maybe. The sphenoid, and what feature of the sphenoid specifically? You guys learned it probably last A&P. Sella turcica, just horse's Turkish saddle, whatever. Some kind of little bone depression in the middle of the sphenoid. And what's this structure right there? The little stalk, the infundibulum. And then if you follow the infundibulum up, you kind of have to be in what part of the brain? the floor of the diencephalon, hypothalamus. So really the diencephalon is right from about here all the way around like that. There's your diencephalon. Above it, this is all cerebrum. Below it, brainstem, and back here, cerebellum. So all this right here is the hypothalamus, floor of the diencephalon, and then follow the hypothalamus, and that's going to give rise to the infundibulum. Name 2 hormones secreted from here that are made in the hypothalamus. ADH and oxytocin. Name a group of hormones that from here, it's pointing right here, name a group of hormones that controls anterior pituitary secretion. Releasing hormones or inhibiting hormones. There's about 7 of them. The roof of the diencephalon has a little gland called the pineal gland. And what hormone comes from there? Melatonin. So see it over here as well, melatonin. Okay. In most cases, they call it anteflexion. The fundus, the whole uterus tips over and kind of lays on top of the urinary bladder here. So realize that you're looking at a different perspective here than you are there. If it asks for region of the uterus, this would be the fundus, and this would be the fundus. And then what region of the uterus? The body. And the body, if it's asking for a region of the uterus. And then over here, cervix, which is the tapering end of the uterus there. So if it asks for layers of the uterine wall, the white outer layer, or even if it was literally like what layer of the uterus is that? Perimetrium. Perimetrium, the kind of the white outer part here. Then if it asks for what layer of the uterine wall is that, or that, myometrium, M for muscle, M for middle. Remember like the myocardium in the heart, middle layer, M for muscle, M for middle, same kind of concept. So myometrium all here. And then in here they put it red because each month it grows in terms of vascularization. Here it's this inner white layer is the innermost layer where implantation takes place, is the endo means within, endometrium. So the red here is the endometrium. Okay, what space is this? Uterine cavity. Uterine cavity. What space, I don't even know if it's on the word bank, but we'll find out. What space is that right there? Which on here would be, what space is that right there? The internal os, is that on your word bank? I think it probably is. Os just means opening. Internal os, that makes this space right here the external os. So here, internal os actually would be right about there. I wouldn't ask it here, and that would be the external os, so I screwed up there. But internal os, external os. What space is this? Or what space is that? This one's kind of, can't see it on that side. That's that lateral fornix. It's kind of like a space between the uterus and the vagina. So lateral fornix, external os, internal os. What space is that? This is all the cervix, so that's the cervical canal. So you have a uterine cavity, cervical canal. Is isthmus on your word bank? In the Well, it is, I guess, just the word isthmus. I won't ask that. This is actually the isthmus of the uterus right there, right where they, on either side, a little constricting where the internal os would be. But so that actually is an isthmus. But anyway, so internal os, space, external os, space, cervical canal, space, uterine cavity. What is this? What structure is this? Well, it is rugae, yeah, rugae of the vagina, but this is all the beginning of the vagina here. So here's the vagina there, and they do show you the rugae. So if it asks what structure of the vagina is this, you could say rugae. But that's the vagina there. What else do we got here? That's probably good for this guy. Let me just take a look real quick to see if there's anything exciting on this one. It's not on that. We're showing what structure is this right here? This connective tissue sheath. Actually, a continuation of the connective tissue of the external oblique muscles. Kind of heads down the in the inguinal area. It's not the inguinal ligament. Spermatic cord. Here. Epididymis. Testes. This is the vas deferens or the ductus deferens, or some you might see it on the keys as the spermatic duct. Not the spermatic cord, which is different, but the spermatic duct travels in the spermatic cord, which we'll find in a different model in a second. But spermatic cord has a bunch of blood vessels. It's got the cremaster muscle and the ductus deferens. Ductus deferens swings around this way. It kind of dilates towards its termination over here. So that's this right here. This is the ampulla of the vas deferens. And then the ampulla of the vas deferens, and this is not the best model for this. What gland is that? Or seminal vesicle. That's provides the bulk of semen. So seminal vesicle, ampulla of the vas deferens. You see how they kind of show them merging. They kind of cut it off there, but these two guys, the duct of the seminal vesicle and the ampulla of the vas deferens, merge on each side and turn into the ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct enters into the prostatic urethra. Then you guys know the rest, the membranous urethra and the spongy urethra. The space would be the external urethral orifice, same as in a female urinary system. What gland is going to be right here or right there on either side? Here's the membranous. Remember, it's always membranous urethra when it goes through this, pokes through this pelvic musculature here. So here's the membranous urethra. So right there and there, what gland is this? Cowper's gland or the bulbourethral gland. One way to remember that, Cowper's glands empty their tubes, empty into the membranous urethra. So on either side of the membranous urethra, you've got the smallest of the male accessory sex glands, which is the bulbourethral or Cowper's gland. So you got, and what gland is that? I almost forgot that. Prostate. Prostate makes about 25% of the semen. Seminal vesicles make, maybe 60%. Okay. What margin is that?
Oh, that's the corona.
Corona. What part of the penis is that? Glans penis. Do they use, is body of the penis on the word bank or anything like that?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if it is. I never asked that anyway. Sorry. What is that?
Well, the bulb. That's the prostate.
It's a prostate from a different perspective. So if it was sitting right there, prostate is urinary bladder, prostate sits right underneath it. So don't forget to look at it from that perspective. What division is that right there? I've never asked this
The
either.
raphe?
The raphe is like what you can see externally that kind of divides the scrotum. Scrotum's on the word bank, right?
Yes.
So here's your scrotum. And the raphe is kind of that external divider that you can see. It continues internally as the scrotal septum, but we'll deal with that down the road. All right, I'm not forgetting anything there, am I? Oh, yeah, I am. You've got the glans penis over here. Then surrounding the spongy or penile urethra on either side, you've got, really would be circular with an opening in the center. This is the corpus spongiosum. And if you, as you follow it proximally, the corpus spongiosum turns into the
Oh,
bulb,
bulb, yeah.
which is part of the root of the penis. This is part of where the penis merges with skeletal muscles in the floor of the pelvis and stays, stays attached, I guess would be a good way to look at it. And then here you have one of the two. You have two dorsolateral corpora cavernosa, so corpus cavernosum would be singular. And then as you follow that up proximally, it turns into the singular crus, plural crura, and that's also part of the, so this, and this, all from here is all the root of the penis, and like I said, these tubes literally merge into skeletal muscles and get held onto the body wall. Let's take a different look. Maybe kind of bands of skeletal muscle here running up. This is, first of all, what structure is that right there? They kind of cut it off here, but it's a continuation of the connective tissue of the external obliques in reality. And it forms a big tube, the spermatic cord. Okay, so in the spermatic cord, you've got the vas deferens. Here they're showing you the vas deferens surrounded by a bunch of blood vessels and whatnot. And also in the spermatic cord is what muscle is that? The cremaster. We'll mention in the lecture about like a cremaster reflex. If you activated this reflex, what would happen to the testes? They would elevate. So it has to do with temperature control. What tube is that? Or what structure is that? Would be a better way to look at it, not tube. Corpus. There's one ventral corpus spongiosum. There's two corpora cavernosa that are dorsolateral. Let's take a look at this. It's still not that great, but this is actually a little bit better here. What tube is this? That's the ureter, by the way, and this tube goes always, you'll see it go right behind the ureter there, vas deferens, and then they're showing you here the dilated portion of the vas deferens, the ampulla of the vas deferens. Right here is, what gland is that? Seminal vesicle, and the ampulla of the vas deferens right there, the ampulla of the vas deferens and the seminal vesicle duct merge to form the ejaculatory duct, again, that enters into the prostatic urethra. Here they show you what glands would these be? Cowper's glands, emptying into the membranous urethra. That's probably about everything. What is that? Mons pubis. What is that?
That's the clitoris.
Clitoris, clitoris, however you want to say it. What is this?
Labia majora.
Labia majora,
Minora.
labia minora. Am I forgetting anything? Structure is that? Fallopian tube. What's that one right next to it? Ovarian ligament. Okay. Probably forgetting something, but I can't think of it, so we'll move on.
Broad ligament.
Broad look, I would never, I would ask it on the poster, but yeah. Okay. Let's take a